Welcome back to the Modcast. My name's Gabe Anderson.
I'm Jake Overall.
And we're here to talk about some stuff.
Absolutely. Always here to talk about some stuff.
Absolutely, like talking.
So, well, I mean...
Not unfortunately. I do like doing this, actually. It's a really cool time.
I think there's a lot of things to talk about, and there's a lot of, back and forth, and so it keeps everything interesting.
Yeah. There's some interesting things. I read this the other night, and I'm actually kind of really excited for this. It's, Cummins is coming out with a new-ish engine. It's not a completely new engine, but a newish engine that is supposed to be able to run, I believe they said it was on diesel or on hydrogen, which is very interesting concept, right? Yep. So in this press release here, they talked about the 15-liter. That's the engine you're going to find in, anything that says, Cummins Clean Air Certified or California Clean Air Certified, those, reflective stickers. So, tow trucks and semis and all that jazz, right?
Okay.
Those get the 15-liter. And then you have your, medium-duty and heavy-duty trucks, which get the 6.7-liter Cummins, something you find, a Ram 2500. Right?
Oh, yeah. Smokestacks for days.
Yeah, pretty much. But so, the cool thing about this, the reason I say it's a new-ish engine, is because with some minor parts that they didn't actually go into detail as to what those different parts are, this engine is virtually identical from the head gasket down to its predecessor.
Really?
The only difference is the actual cylinder head.
Oh, retrofit.
Yes, that's the big thing. That's the big claim to fame with this is apparently they're supposed to be able to retrofit older engines.
Nice.
That's a big thing. I mean, if they can go back to the first 6.7 Cummins, I mean, that's what? 09? I'm sure I have that. No, it's later than that.
I'm not sure. When was the first?
It's not too much later. I don't know.
I could find out.
Regardless, say it's early 2010s or whatever. Even if you get a decade back of being able to retrofit engines, that's huge, really.
Be able to keep a lot of trucks on the road that people really like.
Yeah, and they're great engines. I mean, 6 in the road ready to tow, you know? Cummins guys are diehard.
That's what I've heard. Your residential diesel is a Power Stroke, though, isn't it?
Yes. In my
06.
defense, though... Oh, no shit.
2006, so...
Okay, 2006, so it was earlier than I thought. So, I mean, you're talking just shy of 2 decades worth of vehicles they technically can... In the medium-duty stuff, that you can retrofit. That's pretty cool. I don't know how long the 15-liter's been in use, at least this variant that they're talking about here, but... Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing, and they make good power, too. It says somewhere in there, I think it was 820 foot-pounds of torque.
Holy crap. Okay, so that's... I mean, what's the Power Stroke at right now?
Power Stroke is 1,050 rear wheel.
Okay, so it's substantial, but they're in the ballpark. So
well, we're also talking hydrogen though. This is diesel. I mean, we're talking according to the article and just skimming, it's zero carbon or probably a net zero is what it's going to end up being. But it's 810 foot-pounds of torque and 290 horsepower.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a lot of torque to horsepower.
Well, I mean, considering the fact, when you could first get a Cummins in a not half ton, 3/4 ton or 1 ton truck, I mean, they were what? Maybe 300 foot-pounds of torque? So.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You're doing all right. Those engines did just fine.
Definitely.
I like big power.
Yeah, big power is good. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking maybe we switch some gears from diesel and we go to another high compression and aggressive vehicle, okay. I would say. Another 6-cylinder, right?
Ah, yes. In its peak performance form, the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, or as a resident fan favorite here, Jeremy Clarkson would call it, is the Giulia how did he say it? Let me see if I can read it. It's the Quadrifoglio.
Why did he call it that? Do you know? Or
I mean, if you just look at the word where it says quadrifoglio, it's just a...
Quadrifoglio. Yeah, okay.
It looks like that. I'll give it to him.
Absolutely. I mean...
It's a great car. But, so there's something very interesting with these. So, especially in this picture you're looking at here, you see at the end of the word Giulia, there's that little white triangle with the 4-leaf clover?
Yeah.
Do you know the story behind that?
I do not.
So... The basic gist, I'm not going to get into the wicked history of this, but the basic gist is in 1923, a racer for Alfa Romeo I'm sure I'm saying it wrong because it's Italian, but Savocci, I believe his last name.
Okay.
He had the very undesirable nickname, the driver who never had Lady Fortune on his side.
Oh, that's...
Not a great nickname for a race car driver, right?
No. That's a long-winded nickname, too.
Yeah, it's just all sorts of not great. So, in 1923, on top of his, at the time, now in the 1920s, I'll actually get into this portion first. So you see in its current iteration, it's a white triangle with the 4-leaf clover.
Yeah.
In the 1920s, that was actually, it had 4 points instead of being a triangle.
Okay,
right?
So square to triangle, why?
So the 4 points were to represent the 4 drivers on the team.
Okay.
So before whichever race it was that he went to start, he painted a 4-leaf clover on his car and then he won.
No kidding.
Seemed like good luck, right?
Yeah.
So they kept it on the car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, a year later, during practices for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, he passed away.
Oh, no.
Yes. So they removed one of the points of the white diamond.
Like in honor of him?
In honor of him to create the triangle.
Nice.
And that's just kind of the quadrifolio like performance line. That's just kind of the story behind the logo itself. Is it's just from their history of racing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. What happens?
You want to know another good one? So, since we're talking about the fun little decal on the side of this car, you want to know another fun little trivet of automotive history, I guess you could say?
Sure.
Picture a Jeep.
Okay.
And I mean pretty much any Jeep. It doesn't really matter which one you're talking about. If you look at all of them, the one thing they share in common in design is 7 slots in their grille. Except for one, which we'll talk about in a second. I don't know why it is, but except for one. Do you know the reasoning why there's 7 slots? It's kind of, specific to have 7, right?
Right.
It's because Jeeps were the first vehicle that was sold on all 7 continents.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's not the car you drive every day of the week?
No.
Really? Huh.
Very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I will say, the one exception is there is the Jeep DJ5.
Okay.
Or better known as just male Jeep.
A male Jeep.
Yeah. Right-hand drive, non-removable hardtop, sliding doors. It's everything that you do not expect in a Jeep. Oh, did I mention the fact it's only rear-wheel drive?
Oh, yes.
So
okay.
Everything you expect when you think of the word Jeep, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, they're really fun.
They're definitely not known for things like this, where they just crawl over stuff with straight axles and things of that nature.
But they're funky looking because they have that weird flat windshield. There's a bunch of interesting stuff with them. Oh, and this I actually know because my dad has one of these. Did you know that those some of them came factory with a 4-cylinder single overhead cam Audi engine?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Isn't that an interesting thing? Now they also came with I think it's an inline 6. You could either get the Chrysler version or there was an AMC version.
Okay.
I don't know the display. I don't know enough about them.
It's probably pretty low, I would imagine, like a 2.
It's like a 2.4. 2.2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a big engine.
Gotcha.
But the Jeep that we have, 1983 DJ, I believe.
Okay.
Originally was a 4-cylinder Audi engine. Yep.
Do you guys still have it?
We do. Very notorious for cracking the cylinder heads. And that's actually the problem with ours. We
That's
still
a
have
bummer.
the engine just because, we have the Jeep. Might as well still have the engine, but
Now,
it isn't good.
let me ask you.
Okay.
What's the bottom end comprised of?
I don't know. I really don't know a lot about those things.
And will a newer generation dual overhead cam head work on that block?
Oh, I'm sure we can find out. I mean, it's an Audi engine. I wouldn't be surprised in either direction if it was proprietary for this Jeep only, or if it's something that they put in every other vehicle they had.
That would be amazing to find out, because if you could make that like an angry little motor, it would be something cool. Even if it doesn't go in the Jeep, to go into something else would be an interesting project.
You know what? I'll do some looking into that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So we've gone to Audi. Audi will be joining Formula One in 2026.
Okay.
Alongside Ford, not as a powertrain manufacturer, though, I believe as a constructor of the car.
Okay.
So
I can get behind that, though.
Whether or not they bring their own power plant later, I'm not too sure on the details. But anyway, on the topic of, Alfa Romeo and Audi, Marcus Ericsson used to be an Alfa Romeo driver, and he just won, I think, his second race in IndyCar yesterday at the St. Petersburg Grand Prix in Florida.
This was the season opener, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
This was a big weekend for motorsports. Formula One opened up with their Bahrain Grand Prix. They had practice, last weekend, but they actually got one race under their belt now. So it is officially started.
That's what I like to hear.
Crazy season this year will be, I think, because an unexpected contender, maybe expected, is starting to rise in the field.
This was, you had told me a little bit about this before. What is this guy's name again? He's an American driver, correct?
Yeah, so Williams is in the midfield. His name is Logan Sargent. He's an American driver. His debut was yesterday's race, and he finished 12th, and his teammate, a former Red Bull teammate to Max Verstappen, finished 10th, which is the first place in the points.
Okay.
Which doesn't sound like a lot when there's 20 people on the grid, but when you're a team who traditionally runs at 19th and 20th...
And you're at 12th, you're doing something.
You're actually finishing races, unlike some people. Ferrari.
Oh, man. Ferrari again?
Ferrari.
Oh, isn't that nice?
They also screwed their way out of a podium.
How many cars started the race for Ferrari?
2, but if you count the Alfa Romeos and the Haas cars, 6.
Okay, and how many finished?
I want to say 5. Let's take a look at the results.
Yeah, because we had one good wreck, right?
So no wreck. So
just a DNF.
Charles Leclerc did not finish. His engine quit.
Nice.
His engine quit. Oscar Piastri for McLaren, who seems to be trading places with Williams at this point in time. They had a whole host of issues with both of their cars, but the one with Piastri, another rookie, was an electrical issue in the steering column.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Lando Norris, his teammate, finished last out of all the remaining drivers on track because he had a pneumatic failure in his car, so they had to fill his air tank up every 10 to 12 laps to keep his gearbox shifting.
Wow, that's great.
Yep. I guess... Yeah, they're off to a great start. I feel kind of bad for them because they signed Daniel Ricciardo a couple of years ago, and he drove horrifically for them, and now is sitting on probably what I assume to be a fat paycheck over at Red Bull as like a reserve driver doing testing on the simulator at the factory in Britain.
What the heck?
Daniel Ricciardo.
Good for him, I guess, but wow.
Daniel Ricciardo is an entertaining character, but the moves that he's made in Formula One have been a giant middle finger to every single manufacturer that he has been a part of.
Okay.
Yep.
I really need to start getting this stuff, I tell you what.
The guy, he's Australian. They're all kind of crazy. I mean, they do a lot of burnout competitions down there. They were all the criminals. Looking into it. They put them all on one island, and now they're a country. Yep. It's kind of friggin' crazy.
Country. Who would have thought?
Imagine that. But a little side note for Marcus, he did win the race, but that is in spite of the 2 drivers finishing their races in the wall. Well, one of them actually went on to finish the actual race, but he finished last. I believe, what was his name? Was it Kyle? Was it Kyle Kirkwood who put Romain Grosjean in the wall? I think so. Romain Grosjean, another former Formula One driver, was battling for first in the Grand Prix for IndyCar, and this guy comes, whatever his name be, comes out of the pits with some cold tires and tries to outbrake him into the first corner when he was on a slipstream coming down the straight. So Grosjean gets put in the corner because he's taking the apex line, and your boy goes into the corner with the late brake and tries to take the inside defense line, and they collided. And Grosjean's car got all sorts of banged up.
There's some, I understand, when you're racing, you got to be defensive and whatnot, but there's also being a smart driver at that point in time.
Yeah.
Cold tires and a hard brake.
Probably not a good idea.
No, it's a terrible idea, especially when, it's the only thing connecting you to the ground.
Best case scenario, I think you probably flat spot all 4 of your brand new tires and end up with horrendous vibrations throughout the rest of the time on those tires.
No, thank you.
Yeah, not for me. I'd say you pull up second and then you slipstream him and try to pass him. I think that's the move. Granted, it's a street circuit, so it's hard to do, but it can be done, I think. Those cars are pretty fast.
I mean, they're the best of the best. They're out racing. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned Roman Grosjean. His day was a very sour end. There he is in his DHL car. His day was a very sour end for Andretti Motorsport because all their drivers ended up in the wall or had some sort of a DNF.
Isn't that nice? That's going to be an expensive repair week, huh?
Yep, it's kind of tough to vouch for your team when every single person in your team got smashed up or did not finish, and you're trying to get a bid for a Formula One team.
Hey.
That doesn't look very good.
No.
Considering the last time they had a major accident in Formula One involved Roman Grosjean, where his car split in half and exploded.
Oh, when was this?
I want to say this was in 2021, somewhere thereabouts. Yeah, he hit the wall doing about a buck 60, buck 80, somewhere around there. Car split in half, and it caught on fire, and he got out with a few burns on his hands and feet.
Hey, at least he got out.
Yeah.
Testament to the cars and the engineers that build them.
And the fire marshals, these guys were insanely, this is old news now, but they were insanely instrumental in getting him out of there. Like, he's engulfed in flame right there.
I didn't even see him at first there on the edge of the flame. Look at that.
Yeah. The next frame of this video, which is this is a CNN video picture still, whatever, but this was on Drive to Survive, and they show like the whole thing, and they sprayed him down with the extinguisher as this flame was trying to engulf him, and they ended up pulling him out of there, and he was able to walk to the ambulance, which was pretty crazy. But I don't think I'd be trying to...
The fact that you can hit a wall at 160 mile an hour, and I beat it with some injury, but walk away from it?
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. I mean,
insane. If
you pull... I think he said he pulled like 56 Gs in that car crash.
Ouch.
Which is...
No, thank you.
If you can do simple multiplication, 56 times however much you weigh is...
A lot.
How much you weigh then.
Yeah, no thank you. Nope.
Yeah,
good.
That's an angry number with a lot of digits. Can't imagine it. So moving on with Formula One, we talked about Logan Sargent finishing 12th and Albon finishing 10th. Williams is on the rise here. Another team that is on the rise is good old Aston Martin.
Okay.
So Fernando Alonso is the oldest driver in Formula One currently, and he finished third.
That's pretty damn impressive. I'll give it to him.
In front of Carlos Sainz, who is in a Ferrari. And Ferrari locked out the second row after qualifying.
And they moved all the way out of podium?
All the way out of podium and a DNF. So
great start. I mean, all right, it's the first race of the season. I mean, you got to work some kinks out. I
definitely.
Guess, but, like...
The hype is real, though.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because not only did he finish in third, but his teammate, the owner's son, finished in sixth after having wrist surgeries and a broken toe from a mountain biking accident.
Ooh.
And if you notice there, he split Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in the Mercedes, which shares a power plant with that car.
That's impressive. Okay.
So it's starting to look like Aston Martin has managed to build a better car around the Mercedes power plant than Mercedes to start the season.
This would be very interesting. I want to start watching this for this season then. I'd be very curious to see where that actually ends up, come the last couple races.
I mean, who knows? Maybe next race I'm totally wrong and the Aston Martins finish in the mid pack of the midfield because
it was just a good day of racing.
They maybe just had a whole lot of time to make their car really good for the first race, and then they weren't really ready for any of the other races because they are a young team. Like, they're a carryover with a lot of the same employees, but the management from basically the mid-level up is all new. So it's new sponsors, it's new people running the engineering, it's everything that's different. A lot of the mechanics are probably the same.
Right.
The drivers have changed substantially over the past few years.
So, like, nobody on the team is the same as it's this other management? Or
except for... let me think. Yeah, no, everything changed with the new management. So
very interesting.
Lance, the son, got a position on the team because his dad owns it. and they're Canadian, which is not relevant whatsoever, but just, you know, how we feel about Canada around here. So, yeah. Sorry, Canada.
Yeah. We like it down here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, weird. But needless to say, he's got a spot on the team, and he ended up my favorite driver, Checo Perez's teammate. And they performed pretty well it was the Force India team, and then it became the, what was it? It wasn't Force India anymore. They called it something else. But regardless, Racing Point. That's what it was. It was Racing Point. And then they got the Aston Martin sponsorship, which is interesting because they used to sponsor Red Bull. So it's almost like they learned some things.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, they found their way to the top again.
Pastures type of thing.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that, you know, his old team is still finishing behind him for Sergio. That makes me happy. And he's not quite on pace with Max yet, but I think his used softs and contact at the beginning of this race had a lot to do with that. So I'd be interested to see them on a like-for-like strategy and see who can finish.
Basically, who can outwheel.
Because Checo has stated that he is there to race Max.
That's very interesting. I'm very curious to see that.
He kind of got screwed last year. Max didn't follow team orders, which is one thing, but the real reason that Checo would have needed the team orders is because he was on a set of tires and they put him on a second or a third pit stop. They put him on an extra pit stop, so it put Sergio behind Max in the running.
That doesn't sound like it was done on purpose.
And Max was on a better compound than what they put Sergio on, so it kind of looked like they were sandbagging Checo a little bit.
That's wonderful.
But I don't know what was really going on there. Obviously, they, you know, have their own goals and whatnot within the team, whatever that may be. They have a lot of contracts that specify a lot of crazy things. So
I'm sure, and there's, you know, promotional deals and contracts and all that jazz too that I'm sure, you know, they want to see Verstappen at the front.
Right. And I'm sure there's definitely a lot of incentives there, which, you know, if that's your pay structure, then you play the cards that you're dealt, you know. So it is what it is. But it'd be nice to see Sergio fighting with Checo. Or not with Checo, with Max. That would be great. So you had mentioned something about beer earlier. We tried some mead that you brought over. That was really nice.
Yeah, it's out of a local place in Kingsborough, Mass. The whole building is called the Colony, just as a fun little side note. But it's Honeybound Meadery. Honeybound Meadery. Yeah, it's just the name of their company.
It was really good.
Good mead. It's a red bamboo mead with their own in-house honey.
Huh.
It's New England Beekeeping Supplies, the other sister company there.
We need more bees, so that's awesome.
This is a fun little side note thing, but just on our little beer thing, it was the Hawkstone Brewery from our man Jeremy Clarkson. None other than the myth, the legend. Oh, look, Formula One race, cool. That's a sick looking livery, I have to say, for Alfa Romeo. Oh yeah, I mean, that's Alphas, nice. They're pretty. They're just nice cars. Alphas. Yes. And he is. We've also decided before this little episode of ours started that Jeremy Clarkson is at the very least the automotive quote goat. The quote goat. Because I mean, come on, there's just so many amazing quotes that man has said at this point in time. We'll get into some more at some other time, but it's never ending. No, the guy's quotes are awesome. I mean, he has. Just in a quick Google search, there's like the top 80 Jeremy Clarkson quotes, like the famous "speed has never killed anyone, suddenly becoming stationary, that's what gets you." Yeah. Let's see. Just try and find... Being smarter than you look is better than looking smarter than you are. Yep. That's a fact. Looking good in Italy is even more important than looking where you're going. Yeah, Alpha. We'll find some other ones down here. He had. There you go. This is a little topical Ferrari. I'd like to consider Ferrari as a scaled down version of God. Well, God needs to make some better race strategy decisions. I know you're a Koenigsegg guy. You'll dig this. Oh yeah. Koenigsegg is Swedish for. Oh no, my head has just exploded.
Yep. I love that. That's so good.
The automotive quote goat for sure.
What about this little number right here?
Yes. The scope of my engineering genius. Literally knows no bounds.
No bounds. And you know that like the scene following this immediately was just something half held together with duct tape or broken.
Or it broke, or him yelling Hammond or May, something like that. You know, just...
One of the best engineering things he's ever done, I think, was on the Grand Tour when they went across all the Norse countries and he froze Hammond's keys in the trough and then pissed all over it.
Yes.
That's so awesome.
Oh,
I love that.
Dude, you definitely, we were talking about this before, but you definitely, if you haven't seen Clarkson's Farm, they just finished the second season. Wow, I actually almost got to find the quote about his Lamborghini tractor from the first couple episodes. So, kind of like we mentioned before, Lamborghini at one point in time made tractors. They separated as companies. Yep. It still carries the name Lamborghini, but they're no longer affiliated. Mm-hmm. He bought a Lamborghini tractor. A massive one. Like, way bigger than what he needed. And the whole first season is just everybody telling him how he bought way too damn big of a tractor.
That's fantastic.
It's Jeremy Clarkson.
I don't think
expect anything less.
He does like everything and nothing half-ass. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Even if he knows it's wrong, he at least fully commits.
Yeah, absolutely. Might be the wrong move, but he's just going all out.
What? At least he stands behind his word, his gut feeling at least, right?
Yeah, so he's obviously a fantastic engineer. I'm going to nerd out for a little bit here, even more so than Formula One. The Book of Boba Fett. I want to talk about some modifying that has been done in this show that they kind of just... It was about The Mandalorian, which is another big TV show about Star Wars characters on Disney+. But, so they had basically, the main character of The Mandalorian, his name is Din Djarin. His ship was blown up by the Empire or whatever, the people that were left of the Empire. They blew his friggin' ship up and burned everything he owned. Right. So he's in need of a new ship. Yep. Went and did a job, got some money, and then he went and found a woman who is a mechanic / engineer on the home planet of Luke Skywalker from the original movies, Tatooine, and she got him a Naboo starfighter. Okay. A Naboo starfighter is this little number here. You can see it early on in the prequels, and it's basically just they're hand built, I guess she said in the show, instead of droids making them. Basically, okay. So it's like your Bugatti of starfighters. So your Koenigsegg. Exactly.
Hand built cars.
So what she did...
spaceships, I should say.
It was in pieces. Okay. So they had to... The Jawas, the people who... Like the little creatures that go around and steal stuff. Yeah. Basically the ones who sold R2-D2 to Luke and his uncle.
The big... I don't know what it's called, but that...
that big crawler.
The crawler that goes through the desert, and when they find stuff, they just... pack it into the ship.
Yep, they take everything apart. So they had frequently taken apart the Razor Crest, Din's old ship that got blown up, and she made deals with them to get her parts to modify this starfighter.
So we're hot rodding spaceships now?
We're hot rodding spaceships.
Yes.
And that's why I had to talk about it, because it's not new news, but I thought it was really relevant.
It's still fun that they went out of their way to have like a gearhead aspect in the show. And she, now that I think about it, because I have seen all The Mandalorian, it's she really was kind of like the show's gearhead, wasn't she?
Absolutely. And like she got to prove it.
Yeah.
In this episode.
She was doing modifies. Okay.
Yep. She built something way better than the original one. So these ones, like, they kind of resembled the X-Wings from the original Star Wars. Yep. They kind of fly like the same pace, sort of. They're not X-Wings, but this is what she built. So this is...
That's right.
Quite a bit different.
So stock and modified.
Yep. So she put bigger blasters on it to start. She was missing a bunch of panels, but she got rid of a bunch of panels, and when they were done, she's walking around it and goes, "There's not an inch of fat on this baby."
So, like, original hot rodder mentality,
yep.
Too. Man, that is great.
Put a bigger engine, so to speak, in it, in the middle here. It's, like, sticking out like a hot rod, like the air cleaner for a hot rod. So basically what she did was she modified the system. So it's basically a drag car or a drag ship on command. It has a switch. It's a big red switch on the inside. So that because they have light speed, and then they have like their sub light speed just flying around.
Just cruising, doing whatever.
So there's a scene where 2 X-Wings pull up next to him when he's testing it for the first time, flying around Tatooine.
And they were calling for his like ship's ID or whatever, and he didn't have any because
it's brand new.
Illegal things.
Yep, hot-rodded illegal car, taking it out for a test drive. And
officer, I swear I was going to register it.
Yeah, he's like, I'll go get it sorted. Thank you very much. And then it turns out that one of the X-Wing pilots is one that he previously dealt with his old ship. And given that he's a Mandalorian and there's like 10 of them left in the universe that people know about, it's kind of obvious who he is.
Yeah, when they see his helmet, they're kind of like, I think I know you.
Yeah, I think that's the Mandalorian guy. And he's like, your voice is awfully familiar. And he goes, you must have me with the wrong guy. And he opens the switch and he flicks the toggle and hits the button, and he shoots off into space.
It's a damn scramble button?
It's a scramble button.
That's amazing.
And he goes, did he just jump to light speed? He didn't charge his light speed thrusters. And he goes, nope, those are his sublight thrusters. And he goes, are we going to report this? And he goes, do you want to go back and do paperwork all day? And he goes, all right.
All right, next.
Yep. So they let him go because it was just that fast.
That's wonderful.
Yep. I love it so much. I think that's a nice little hat tipping to the modifying community out there.
Absolutely, and it shows there's a little bit of respect for that still. It's like, hey, we're going to take some grassroots stuff. And I mean, hot rodding is about as grassroots as it gets.
Yeah, and like there's people in Star Wars who modify themselves with like cyborg type stuff, which like isn't my cup of tea, but this definitely would be.
Oh,
if
a faster spaceship? No, please don't.
With bigger guns? Please tell me it isn't so. Yep.
Yes.
It's awesome.
That is fantastic.
So heavily modified.
What's funny too is this. I guess I had never really caught that watching the original show. I'm actually a little dumbfounded that I hadn't. But I mean, it makes perfect sense. You literally got a basket case off of whatever Tatooine's version of Facebook Marketplace is.
Yeah, exactly. And then he didn't want to buy it because it was in pieces. And she's like, I got you a replacement. And she's like, will you at least wait until I put it together to make up your mind? And she starts like working on it. And then she's like, it'll be a lot faster if you help.
Yeah, like, hello.
Let's build this thing.
Light work. Let's go.
When he initially started flying it, he was flying slowly. And he's complaining. He was like, hey, it's kind of bumpy. And she's like, it's a starfighter. You're used to flying like a gunship. Yeah. Fly it like a starfighter.
Hello, when in doubt, throttle out.
Yep, so he gives it a little more juice and takes off, and he's like, it's real smooth. It's tight.
Duh.
Yep, kind of like putting a nice fresh chassis setup on a freshly installed suspension.
Oh, I like it.
There's nothing quite like that.
Fresh car.
Or
fresh spaceship.
His only word when he got out of his starfighter was wizard.
Yes.
Yep. Amazing.
Oh, that reminded me of another Jeremy Clarkson quote. You keep going, I'm going to pull it up.
So the Mandalorian is back, which is why I wanted to bring this up. The season 3 is out on Disney Plus, which I have no affiliation with. I'm just a huge fan of it. And I think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing great things at Disney, and they deserve praise for it anywhere they can get it.
Do you know about Jeremy Clarkson's turbo quote? Your little wizard thing right there. So it's the definition of a turbo. So it's a turbo. Exhaust gas is going to turbocharger. Spin it. Witchcraft happens. And you go faster.
Yep. That's pretty accurate, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
That's so cool.
Thing just reminded me. But yeah.
Well, I'd say that was the Modcast.
Yeah, it's some very interesting modifying talk today. And of course, Formula One, all our other race car stuff. We got to bring it full circle to car stuff, but in every aspect, really. Yeah,
there's a reason for everyone to do stuff like this, for sure.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, modifying your car too is you don't have to be doing engine swaps and all this stuff. Make it yours. That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Put a little exhaust on it, put wheels on it to just, I don't know, maybe change something about the interior, like a shift boot or...
Yeah, just make it different, make it yours.
But try to do a good job too, like make it something that maybe would appeal to somebody else also if they never thought to do that. You know what I mean?
Like, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they'll build upon it. That's what it's all about.
But I think I agree. I think that was the Modcast for the night.
That was the Modcast.
All right. I'm Gabe Anderson.
I'm Jake Overall.
Have a good night.